welcome to your deep dive. We're going to be looking at W6 reading pack.pdf.
Okay.
And I think this is going to be super relevant to our listeners
Yeah.
who are TESOL teachers prepping for a professional development course on developing course content.
Absolutely.
So this is really all about understanding how students learn best.
Yeah, how students learn best. And
Right.
this reading pack dives into 4 key learning styles.
Okay.
Finding out for yourself, things made plain, periphery learning,
Okay.
and use and refinement.
Gotcha.
And what's fascinating is how they emphasize that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. So it's like having a diverse toolbox, each tool
Exactly.
perfect for different learning scenarios.
Yeah.
So let's unpack these styles.
Okay.
Um,
Let's do it.
starting with finding out for yourself.
All right.
I love how they use the electric fence example.
Yeah.
You touch it once,
Right.
you learn your lesson.
You learn quickly.
But maybe not the most pleasant way to learn.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And in a TESOL context, we want to create that aha moment of discovery without the shock, right?
Without the shock, right?
So think about inductive grammar activities where students analyze examples to figure out the rules themselves. Or maybe problem-solving tasks where they deduce meaning from context.
Yeah, it's about setting them up for success, giving them the tools to explore and discover on their own.
Oh.
This reminds me of teaching phrasal verbs instead of just handing them a list.
Right.
What if we presented them with authentic examples, maybe song lyrics or dialogue snippets,
Oh, I like that.
and let them work together to decipher the meanings?
That's a great application.
Yeah,
By actively engaging with the language, they're more likely to internalize it.
for sure.
And that leads us to the next learning style, things made plain, where clear explanation reigns supreme.
Sometimes you just need a good explanation,
Absolutely.
or especially when tackling complex grammar concepts.
Right.
What strategies resonated with you from the reading pack?
Well, they really stress the importance of breaking down complex information into digestible chunks, using visuals and providing real-world examples.
Right.
It's like building a bridge between the abstract concept and something they can relate to.
Yeah, and constantly checking for understanding along the way.
Yes.
It's easy to assume they're following along,
Yeah.
but asking targeted questions
Right.
helps ensure everyone's on the same page.
For sure.
This is where our role as course developers is so crucial.
Absolutely. We need to anticipate potential roadblocks and create materials that guide both teachers and students through those tricky spots.
Totally.
But it's not just about direct instruction. The periphery learning style really caught my eye.
Right.
It's about absorbing language naturally, almost unconsciously, like how we learn our first language.
Right. It's like that catchy jingle you just can't get out of your head.
Exactly.
How can we create that kind of immersive experience in a TESOL classroom?
Well, the reading pack had some great examples, like using visually appealing posters, incorporating background music,
Yeah.
and even strategically arranging the classroom.
Okay.
Think about how color coding can aid memory, or how having English language radio playing softly during independent work can create an immersive environment.
It's about creating a rich tapestry of language, making it a natural part of their day.
Yes.
And speaking of application, that brings us to use and refinement.
Yes. This is where students put their knowledge into action.
Okay.
It's not enough to just understand the rules. They need opportunities to use the language in authentic contexts.
Right.
Think about role-playing real-life scenarios, creating presentations, or writing for a specific audience.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You can read all the manuals you want,
Exactly.
but until you hop on and start pedaling,
Right.
you won't truly learn.
You got it.
And as TESOL instructors, we provide that safe space for them to practice, make mistakes, and refine their skills.
Exactly. And feedback is key here.
Yeah.
Providing constructive feedback helps them identify areas for improvement and continue that journey toward fluency.
These 4 learning styles seem to work best in combination.
That's what's so exciting about this approach. It encourages us as course developers to move beyond rigid methods and embrace flexibility.
Right.
It's about tailoring our content to meet the diverse needs of our students and empower them to succeed.
Totally.
And speaking of flexibility, let's shift gears and dive into some common instructional sequences used in TESOL.
Okay.
The reading pack highlights test, teach, test, and PPP, which stands for presentation, practice, production.
Gotcha. So these sequences provide a framework for structuring lessons and incorporating those different learning styles we talked about.
Exactly.
Let's start with test, teach, test. The name pretty much says it all, right?
Right. It's about gauging their existing knowledge and identifying any gaps or areas that need reinforcement.
Okay.
You might start with a quick quiz or a diagnostic activity to see where they stand with a particular grammar point or vocabulary set.
Then you tailor your teaching to address those specific needs.
Right.
This is where things made plain might come into play, providing clear explanations and targeted practice activity.
Exactly. And after you've covered the material, you test again to see how much they've absorbed.
Right.
It's a cyclical process that allows for continuous assessment and adjustment.
I can see how this sequence aligns with the emphasis on student outcomes.
Yes.
You're constantly checking for understanding and making sure they're meeting those learning objectives.
Absolutely.
But how does test, teach, test connect with those 4 learning styles we discussed?
Well, think about it. The initial test phase can actually tap into use and refinement.
Okay.
Students are using their existing knowledge, even if it's limited.
Right.
Then during the teach phase, you might incorporate elements of finding out for yourself through guided discovery activities, or use things made plain to deliver clear explanations.
Right. And then the final test allows for another round of use and refinement.
Exactly.
Where they apply their newfound knowledge.
Yeah.
It's a holistic approach that combines assessment and instruction in a meaningful way.
For sure.
Now let's move on to PPP.
Okay.
It starts with introducing a new language concept, right?
Right. The presentation phase is all about providing a clear foundation.
Okay.
This is often where things made plain shines, providing clear explanations, visual aids, and real-world examples.
Okay.
Think about introducing a new grammar structure with clear illustrations and relatable scenarios.
So you're setting the stage for them to start working with the language.
Exactly.
Then comes the practice phase where use and refinement take center stage, right?
Exactly. This is where they get to try out the new language in controlled activities, like drills, gap fill exercises, or controlled role plays. Repetition and feedback are crucial here,
right?
Allowing them to build confidence and accuracy.
And then production is where they take the training wheels off and start using the language more independently and creatively.
Yes. Think about activities like debates, presentations, or creative writing tasks. It's about pushing them to step outside their comfort zones and apply what they've learned in authentic communication.
I love how PPP mirrors that natural progression of language acquisition.
Yeah.
Taking them from understanding to practice and finally to confident application.
Absolutely.
But the reading pack doesn't just present these sequences in isolation, does it?
No, it emphasizes that they're not rigid formulas, but flexible frameworks that we can adapt to our specific teaching contexts and the unique needs of our students.
Right.
We can blend test, teach, test with elements of finding out for yourself or weave periphery learning into all stages of the PPP sequence.
It's about choosing the right tools for the job and combining them in a way that maximizes student engagement and learning.
Exactly.
The reading pack also introduces task-based learning, or TBL.
Yes.
Which seems to take that concept of authentic application to a whole new level.
Right. TBL shifts the focus from simply learning about the language to actually using it to achieve a specific outcome.
So instead of just memorizing vocabulary lists or conjugating verbs in isolation, they might be working together to plan a trip, write a restaurant review, or solve a problem using the target language.
Exactly. It emphasizes authentic communication and collaboration, allowing students to develop fluency, problem-solving skills, and confidence alongside language proficiency.
I'm really intrigued by this approach. Can you walk us through a typical TBL sequence?
Sure. It typically starts with introducing the topic or task.
Okay.
This is where you spark interest and activate prior knowledge. You might brainstorm ideas, present a real-world scenario, or use engaging texts and visuals to set the context.
It's like setting the stage for them to step into a real-world situation where they need to use the language to achieve something specific.
Exactly.
What happens next?
Then comes the heart of TBL. Students actually do the task.
So they collaborate using their language skills to solve a problem, create something, or share information.
Exactly. It's like a language laboratory where they can experiment, make mistakes, and learn from each other in a supportive environment.
It sounds like a great way to foster that growth mindset where they see mistakes as opportunities for learning.
Sure.
They're not just focused on being perfect. They're focused on communicating and getting things done.
Absolutely. The focus is on fluency and communication, not necessarily perfect accuracy.
Right.
It's about creating a safe space where they can take risks and stretch their language abilities.
So they've completed the task. What happens next in the TBL sequence?
Well, after completing the task, students plan how they'll report back to the class.
Okay.
This is a crucial step because it allows them to reflect on their process, consolidate their learning, and prepare to share their insights.
It's like debriefing after a project.
Exactly.
They get to analyze what worked well, what challenges they faced, and how they can improve their approach next time.
And during this planning phase, the teacher acts as a guide, helping them organize their thoughts and craft a clear and compelling presentation or report.
So it's not just about doing the task. It's about reflecting on the process and learning from the experience.
Yeah.
What happens during the reporting stage?
This is where the learning becomes truly collaborative.
Okay.
Students present their findings, share their insights, and engage in discussions with their peers. They get to see different perspectives, ask questions, and build upon each other's ideas.
It sounds like a mini conference where they're sharing their expertise and learning from each other.
That's a great analogy. And just like at a conference, there's an element of periphery learning happening as they absorb information from their peers' presentations.
Yeah.
They're expanding their vocabulary and picking up new language structures just by listening and engaging in the discussion.
So even those who aren't actively presenting are still learning and growing through this shared experience.
Exactly.
What role does the teacher play during this reporting phase?
The teacher provides feedback and guidance.
Okay.
They highlight key language points, address common errors, and provide further explanations or examples as needed.
So it's a chance to bring in some things made plain and provide targeted instruction based on what they observed during the task and presentations.
Exactly.
What happens after the reporting phase?
The TBL sequence typically concludes with language analysis review and practice.
Okay.
This is where you delve deeper into the language used during the task, analyzing grammar structures, exploring vocabulary choices, and providing targeted practice activities.
It's like taking a closer look at the specific language tools they used during the task and providing opportunities to refine their skills.
Exactly. And this stage should be engaging and relevant, connecting back to the real-world context of the original task.
It sounds like TBL truly embraces the idea of learning by doing, and it integrates all four of those learning styles we discussed earlier.
You got it. TBL provides a rich and rewarding experience for both teachers and students.
Yeah.
It's a holistic approach that acknowledges the complexity of language learning and empowers students to use their new skills in meaningful ways.
And it aligns beautifully with the overall theme of this reading pack, flexibility.
It's about understanding a range of approaches and then tailoring our content and instruction to meet the diverse needs of our students and our teaching contexts.
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, from exploring those four key learning styles to unpacking instructional sequences like test, teach, test, PPP, and TBL.
Right.
But I'm eager to see how all of this comes together in practical applications.
Yeah.
The reading pack did provide some interesting examples, didn't it?
Yes, it did. One example that caught my eye was how to teach functional expressions for discussing films.
Okay.
Using the finding out for yourself approach.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. I can see how this would be relevant for our listeners who are developing TESOL courses.
Right.
What did the reading suggest?
So instead of just presenting a list of phrases, they suggested having students brainstorm expressions they already know for talking about movies.
That's a great way to activate prior knowledge and get them thinking critically about language they already use.
Right.
What comes next?
Then introduce authentic materials like snippets of movie reviews or conversations about films.
So they get to play detective and see those functional expressions in action.
Exactly. They can listen for and identify different expressions, categorize them by function and meaning, and even analyze how speakers use intonation to convey their opinions.
It's about taking them beyond just recognizing the phrases to understanding how they're used in real communication.
Absolutely.
That's a great example of how we can make learning more engaging and relevant.
For sure.
Did the reading pack offer any examples for using things made plain?
Yes. It had a really interesting example for teaching sentence structure to a monolingual class.
Okay, this is so relevant for TESOL teachers, especially when working with students whose native language structures differ significantly from English.
Right.
What did the example suggest?
Well, it highlighted the importance of explicitly contrasting the structures. So you might write a sentence in their native language on the board, and then directly translate it into English word for word.
That visual comparison can be so powerful, students can immediately see how word order and sentence construction might differ.
Exactly. And then you can break it down further using color coding or diagrams to highlight those key grammatical features.
Right.
It's like providing a visual roadmap of the English sentence.
It's about making the abstract concrete and giving them those visual anchors to support their understanding.
Yeah.
The reading pack also emphasized the importance of periphery learning, didn't it?
Yes. And they had some practical examples for creating that immersive language environment.
Okay.
They mentioned things like displaying posters with grammar structures or useful phrases around the classroom.
Right. Or using color-coded paper for different verb tenses.
Yeah.
I've seen teachers do that, and it really seems to help students make those visual connections.
It's about creating those subtle reminders that reinforce learning without them even realizing it.
Right.
And don't underestimate the power of music. Playing English language songs or having soft background music can create a relaxed and engaging atmosphere.
It's about making language a natural part of their surroundings, not just something they encounter during focused lessons.
For sure.
Did they have any examples for incorporating use and refinement?
Yes. They discussed a strategy for teaching students how to explain how to do things.
Okay.
Starting with simple tasks and gradually increasing the complexity.
That gradual progression is key. It allows students to build confidence and fluency step by step.
Right. You might start by having them explain how to make a cup of tea. Or use a piece of classroom equipment.
Okay.
Then, as they gain confidence, you can challenge them with more complex tasks like explaining how to send an email or use a specific software program.
And providing constructive feedback throughout this process is essential. It helps them identify areas for improvement and continue refining their skills.
Exactly. It's all about creating those opportunities for authentic language use and providing the support they need to succeed.
These real-world examples really drive home the point that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about understanding these different learning styles, instructional sequences, and then adapting them to fit our specific teaching contexts and the unique needs of our students.
I couldn't agree more. This reading pack has provided us with a valuable toolkit.
Yeah.
But it's up to us as course developers to use these tools thoughtfully and creatively.
It's about being flexible, experimenting, and always putting student outcomes at the forefront of our minds.
Absolutely.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to emphasize that while this process can feel daunting, it's also incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. We have the privilege of empowering our students with the gift of language.
Right.
Opening doors to new opportunities and experiences.
And that passion for teaching, that commitment to our students' success will shine through in the courses we develop. As you move forward in your course development journey, remember to embrace that flexibility, experiment with these different approaches, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Have fun.